everybody. It's Dave here, and Darren's over there.
2 weeks in a row. 2 weeks in a row.
Mark that on your calendar, Tyler. 2 weeks in a row. Well, Darren gave the inspiration for the naming of this episode. Vikings Great Expectations. And it's as the 2025 season kicks off. And of course, me being my quasi-literary self, thought of Charles Dickens and Great Expectations. So I'm going to take liberty and modify his opening line just a bit. My family name, now Viking. My given role, quarterback. My young tongue could make both names nothing grander and more hopeful than JJ McCarthy, signal caller for Minnesota's 2025 quest to conquer the NFC North and the whole league. We have a show today, and we're going to start off with three themes as usual. Great Expectations being the first one, followed by This Week in Vikings Land. We had a little bit of news, a retirement to celebrate. And then we're going to get into the game preview, where we're going to bring on our first ever contributor and his spot for Inside the Numbers, Drew Bunting. All next on Two Old Loggers. Let's rock! Vikings First and SKOL presents This Week in Vikings Land with Darren and Dave, your two old bloggers. And we're back. Hey, how are you doing there, Darren?
I'm just wiping the sleep from my eyes there. I had to get up so early today, Dave, for the show.
Well, my favorite comment so far is from Forlorn Hope. It's 10 a.m. and he's already looking through his liquor cabinet for this weekend. Took Monday off for the daily lineup, and don't judge me. Happy opening weekend all, and happy to you, Forlorn. Very much so. Now, we named this one Vikings Great Expectations, and I thought that was cool. So, we have here, let's start with theme one. And in theme one, I can find it real quick. There we go. Great Expectations.
Indeed. The gist of this theme, Dave, is that I'm looking at, of course, season's finally here. Monday night, we get it going, and Vikings 2025 starts. And again, a lot of excitement about the Vikings, a lot of expectations about the Vikings and what they could accomplish this year, and what some of us fans expect them to accomplish. And I wanted to look at, to meet those expectations, certain players are going to have to, or a lot of players are going to have to play very, very well for the Vikings this season, for them to make the playoffs, win the division, win some playoff games, get to the Super Bowl, and win it. And so I have picked out a few players that I think are going to be crucial to the Vikings getting to where we want them to go, the Super Bowl. And the players I'm not going to bring up is one of those guys is in that picture, because we've talked JJ McCarthy. Obviously, he's got to play very well this year for the Vikings to succeed. Obviously, Justin Jefferson has got to play like he always does and be healthy to succeed. And you can say that about a few other guys, but I'm going to run down, I think it's 6 guys that I'm watching for, and I think are going to be, pretty important to the Vikings' success. The first one I'm going to start with is Donovan Jackson, the starting left guard for the Vikings this year. And you might say, well, Darren, he's our top draft pick. Of course, he's got to be critical. He's going to be critical to the Vikings succeeding this year. But one thing about Jackson's a little bit different is that, yes, we knew the Vikings needed to do something about the interior of the offensive line because it gave up. It just wasn't good enough in the run blocking or the pass blocking. But Jackson wasn't the sole way they attacked that. They also spent quite handsomely in free agency to get Ryan Kelly at center to replace Garrett Bradbury, and they got Will Fries at right guard to replace Dalton Reisner, Ed Ingram and Reisner. So you got three guys that the Vikings did acquire to address the interior offensive line issues. And the thing about, and we are, I think you, Dave, and I are very enthused about what the Vikings did. We think that they addressed the interior offensive line issues, and we're pretty optimistic that those moves are going to work in the Vikings' favor and lead to an improved interior offensive line and an improved offensive line in general. But the thing about Kelly and Fries is that they have a track record in the NFL. We know that they have played well at the NFL level consistently for, in Kelly's case, pretty much his whole career, and in Fries' case, the last couple of years. Jonathan Jackson does not have that track record. Do I think he's going to be good? Yes. He's got all the tools. He had a very strong career at Ohio State, playing not only guard, but then getting kicked out to left tackle last year. But again, he hasn't done it at the NFL level. And Dave, you always say college linemen takes them 3 or 4 years to really hit their stride. And so, but Jackson is a starter now. And the Vikings, sure, I expect Kelly and Fries, if healthy, to play well and help the Vikings offensive line, but they're not going to fix the problems completely if you've got Donovan Jackson, the rookie, going full Ed Ingram on us. So I think that I don't expect Jackson to be as bad as Ed Ingram was in his time in the Vikings, but he's got to play well. And because he's an offensive lineman and because he only played a handful of snaps during the preseason, Dave, we don't know how Jackson has played. We don't know how he's been looking, really. He's kind of flew under the radar a bit as far as a guy that, for a first-round draft pick, our top draft pick, he hasn't got a ton of attention on him, but the attention's going to start on Monday night and throughout the season, and Donovan Jackson has to, if he plays solidly at the least, I think this offensive line, with the expected performances and play that we expect to get out of Kelly and Fries, and you've got O'Neal and you've got Darisaw eventually in there, this offensive line could be very, very good. And that's going to be very, very good for JJ McCarthy when he drops back to pass, and the Vikings running game when they hand the ball off to Aaron Jones or Jordan Mason.
I agree. And I want to thank Ruby for gifting 5 memberships to people. You're like wonderful. There,
2 Ruby. Or 3 weeks in a row, isn't it? She's done that.
Yeah, she's absolutely a great person.
She must be making a lot of money.
Uh-huh. Oh, Bill says, hey, Dave, where's the Discord link? That's a great question. I haven't been on Discord this morning. It should have popped up with the bot. I will check real quick. But no, you're right. Donovan Jackson will be interesting to watch. I very much look forward to it. I hope he's at least mediocre in his rookie year. I think he will be better than that, though. So we'll see.
He played a lot of football in his college career against the best competition you can play at college level. It ain't the NFL, but he's had the best training I think he could have up to this point in his NFL career, or in his college career, leading into getting drafted and going into the NFL as a rookie.
I agree. So that brings us to your next individual that you want to spy on this season.
That would be edge rusher Jonathan Grenard. I think another guy who's maybe a little bit under the radar, Dave, but this guy, 2 straight years with the Texans in 2023, he had 12.5 sacks and had a boatload of quarterback pressures. Last year followed that up with 12 sacks with the Vikings in his first year after we signed him as a free agent. And again, a boatload of quarterback pressures. I think he was top 3 or 4 in the NFL in that category. And so this is a guy that, has played very well the last 2 years, but everything that we're hearing about in training camp and OTAs is that Grenard has been definitely the best defensive player on the field for the Vikings, and maybe their best player, period, on the field. Unblockable. We've been reading about that, hearing about that all training camp and the offseason about Jonathan Grenard. And again, the last 2 years, Jonathan Grenard has been an excellent football player at the NFL level for the Texans and then for the Vikings last year. And we expect that this Vikings pass rush is going to be strong because he's there, and you got Van Ginkel, and we're expecting Dallas Turner to play more and play better with those more snaps. But if Grenard has found another gear, Dave, and goes into the elite pass rushing level, if he isn't already there, what an ace Jonathan Grenard could be for Brian Flores to use play after play after play for this defense, which was very good last year. Faltered a little bit at the end of the season, but was very good last year. And again, I don't know if Grenard is going full on, Chris Dolman, that type, Jared Allen type of play. I'd be very, very excited to see where that takes the Vikings. And so, but overall, Grenard's got to be healthy, and he's got to play at least at the level he did last year, I think, for the Vikings to continue to have the success on defense that they had, even with Ginkel being there and Dallas Turner being there, and you got Blake Cashman and all those other guys.
Yep, and you've added Hargrave and Allen.
Speaking of those two, those are two other guys that I think are going to be critical to the Vikings' success. Last year, we know the Vikings got nothing in the pass rush from their defensive linemen. And we know that the Vikings signed Jonathan Allen as a free agent and Javon Hargrave as a free agent to address those issues. They're known as in the past as being great pass rushers at the NFL level, and that they were going to address that weakness along the Vikings defensive line. Again, because Harrison Phillips, Jonathan Bullard, Tillery last year, those guys, they just gave you nothing on the pass rush. However, I did see a stat that Matthew Collar brought up this week, where he looked at the last time that Allen and Hargrave were fully healthy for a full season, and that was 2023. And the Pro Football Focus run defense grades for them said that Hargrave was 129th overall in run defense grade out of 200 defensive tackles that they graded. Jonathan Allen was 182 out of those 200 defensive tackles in run defense grade that they added. The Vikings last year were pretty good at stopping the run, and the one thing that Bullard and Phillips did well was occupy space, blockers, and be space eaters. And I think that really helped the Vikings be strong against the run most of the time. My question is, the Allen and Hargrave got a boatload of money each. The Vikings brought them in to improve the defensive line, particularly viewing from a pass rush perspective. But Brian Flores is not going to be able to unleash the pass rush and have those guys go after the quarterbacks as much if they're not handling things on the run side of stuff too. And if the Vikings defense is constantly facing 2nd and 2 and 2nd and 3, again, you're not going to be able to rush the passer as well because you're going to be off balance. The opposing offense is probably going to hand the ball off or they're going to play action you to death. And so, but my question is going to be, those are Pro Football Focus grades, Dave. Again, you can view them with some skepticism. A lot of people do. But they are a metric that we have to assess how those two players played, both pass rush and defensive, and pass rush and run defense. And so my question is, the Vikings, for the Allen and Hargrave, if they earn their money, they've got to be complete football players. And I'm wondering, again, we'll see whether they can be handle their business pass rushing, we're not too worried about that. But stopping the run, that's the other thing that they need to do well. And if they do it well, again, along with Grenard doing what he does and everybody else, again, this defense could go to a whole different level if you've got those two guys being monsters, not just rushing the passer and pushing offensive linemen back into the quarterback's lap, but also doing a good job on the run defensive side of things.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And when you look at those grades, you kind of think, well, what were they tasked to do? Was it just rush the passer and disrupt up the middle? Or did they have, and not given any run responsibilities, leave that to the linebacker sort of deal? Or not? We won't know until we watch.
Yes.
And that's, as T-Bass says, it's going to be targeted early and probably often to see if that is a soft spot in how to defeat the Vikings is to run up the middle. Now, I think it was Hargrave that said this week when he was asked about the Flores defense. He goes, it's a tough one to learn. There's a lot of rules, and they're doing things that are way different than he had been doing in the past. So let's see how they adapt to the Flores mix and match and all sorts of weird stuff that he does. And who knows, it could improve their run defense game. And they may be held more responsible for it. But we'll see. We've got a couple good linebackers behind them as well. So,
yes, we do. But like you said, this we'll get a feel for that over the first 3 or 4 games, I think, as to how this is working. And again, what the Vikings are doing really well on defense this year and what they aren't, and how the players that we have are factoring into that.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of new players, here's another one, Isaiah Rodgers.
Indeed. And pretty defense heavy this segment, but another 2 guys I think are going to be critical to the Viking success this year, and maybe aren't getting talked about as much, although we've been talking about corners a lot, is Isaiah Rodgers, one of our free agent signings, and also Jeff Okudah, another free agent signing. I don't have any worries about Byron Murphy Jr., who's our number 1 corner. Last year he had a career year. Maybe he won't have that this year. Maybe he'll play even better. But he's a solid corner at worst in the NFL, and he's done that for 5-6 NFL seasons now. So you know what you're getting with him. But Isaiah Rodgers
better too.
True, especially and it looks like keeps getting better in the Brian Flores defense, but. Isaiah Rodgers talked a bit about this last week. It seems like I talk about it every week that I'm here, but strong PFF grades when he's played, but he hasn't been a full-time starter in the NFL. And of course, Jeff Okudah, I think his story is well known with the injuries and the ineffectiveness when he isn't injured, even though he was a number 3 overall pick way back in 2020, I believe. So I saw a stat, and why I bring up these 2 guys is because I saw a stat this week also talking about how the Dallas Cowboys last year had a very poor year and a very poor year defensively, and gave up a lot of points. But as far as generating pressures on the quarterback, they were one of the top 5 in the league in that. But they still gave up all kinds of yardage and all kinds of passing yardage. And why was that? Well, one reason is because their cornerbacks, their starting cornerbacks, Trayvon Diggs and Deron Bland, they missed a lot of time last year. And the guys that came in to replace them couldn't hold up. And even when Diggs and Bland were in the game, they didn't play up to their level they've done in previous years. So you can generate a lot of pressures, Dave, and all of that. But if you can't hold, if teams can just drop back 2-step, 3-step, foot hits the ground and target you, a weak link or 2 in the secondary, they're going to move the ball on you. And so that's the thing with Isaiah Rodgers and Jeff Okudah they're going to have to answer is, again, Brian Flores can cook up all these guys on the line of scrimmage, create confusion, send blitzes, maybe not send blitzes, send guys that the offensive line, the quarterback aren't expecting. But again, if Rodgers and Okudah and I'm particularly skeptical about Okudah, as people know who watch the show. But if those two guys don't play well as we hope and expect, again, quarterbacks, every opposing quarterback is going to target them, and they're going to get the ball out quickly, and they're going to complete a lot of passes against them. And again, the Vikings aren't going to be as effective as a defense because you've got not a very strong cornerback room. I don't expect it to be that bad, but these two guys, they've got to prove that they can play at the NFL level and play well when they're playing 600, 700 defensive snaps, as opposed to, in Rodgers' case, 300, 400, or in Okudah's case, hardly any the past few years.
Yep, and they're going to go up against some very, very good quarterbacks this year.
They are
on the schedule.
And I think, no excuses in the NFL, but that's something that we do have to keep in mind as well, Dave, is that we're not playing too many Spencer Rattlers. We're playing some of the best of the best, and there's going to be points scored on us because we're playing really good offenses and really good quarterbacks.
Now, it's luckily we don't face one till week 3 and then again after the bye, but there are some very, very good quarterbacks we're going to face. Now, from there, you went to your big worry of the week.
Is it my big worry? Yeah,
well, it's one of them. You've gone through a whole series in this.
I did my last, I think, somewhat critical player, a guy I think is going to be important to the Vikings' success, is a special teams guy, and it's rookie Miles Price. And I say that because we know last year, if you followed the Vikings closely, that the Vikings got almost nothing from their return game. Punt returns, Powell just, he was shorthanded, but he did not break any long returns at all. He was not explosive. Kickoff return wise, we didn't get to return a lot of kicks for one thing, but when we did, Ty Chandler, whoever we put down there, we just, again, not very many explosive returns. Price right now is listed as your number one punt returner and your number one kickoff returner, although the Vikings will probably utilize 2, and Ty Chandler is the number 2 guy. But Price is an interesting guy because we saw in preseason, he rattled off an 81-yard kickoff return, and he didn't return a ton of kicks, but then he had 2 or 3 really good punt returns, big explosive ones. So we have seen that he's got an ability to make players miss on punt and kickoff returns, which is very important. He seems to read his blocks well. He's able to break tackles. Those are all very good things when you're a kickoff and punt returner. So I am enthused about the juice that he could provide the return game. But we also heard about him dropping some punts, muffing some punts in training camp, in practices. He almost muffed one in the preseason game against Tennessee. We have heard there are concerns about his hands, particularly on returning punts. And so the number one thing, especially in punt returns, is catch the ball. And you've got to be secure at that. And then after you do that, of course, we want you to take it to the house. But a rookie guy like Miles Price, who's shown a little bit of maybe a questionable ability to hands, particularly in the punt returns, that is a worry for me. And doesn't matter how explosive you are if you can't hang on to the ball. And the margins, again, Dave, in the NFL, as we know, are so thin on the win and loss that a muff punt that the other team recovers and gets a field goal out of it or a touchdown out of it, that could be the difference in winning and losing in the game. And so enthused about Miles Price, he's going to get his shot, but if he gets the dropsies in a few games, that could really cost the Vikings and could cost them a game or two. And the other thing is that if it doesn't work out with Price, they've got to find somebody to replace him returning punts. And right now they've got Adam Thielen as the number 2 guy on the depth chart for punt returns. And they also got to find somebody to go with Ty Chandler on kickoff returns. So that would create a specialist roster hole as well if Price can't do the job. I think he can do the job as far as being an explosive returner. But again, if you're fumbling the ball every third time you get a kick to you, you're not going to be in that role very long.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's the whole job description. First thing you do is catch the football. And you got to hold on to it. So you can't return it if you don't have it.
Nope.
It's that simple. So hopefully it does work out.
Aaron's worrying about Soldier Field. We're going to touch on that here in a bit.
And besides sneaking in their own smelling salts, hopefully he sneaks in some Stickum.
Yeah. Good old Lester Hayes style Stickum. Remember Lester Hayes, man? He'd have that crap. You could yellow stuff all over his hands, elbows, his jersey.
All over his body. It's just... It's unbelievable.
I wouldn't want to be his equipment manager.
All right. Now, time for Theme 2. This week in Vikings land.
Indeed. Yeah, I'm going to get at a few news and notes and some thoughts this week because there wasn't a whole lot of big news for the Vikings, other than monitoring the injury report, I think. But first one I want to get to is we had a retirement press conference this week with Anthony Barr announcing his retirement and holding a press conference at the Vikings facility at Egan. And we had talked about it a few weeks ago when there was a tweet by, I think, an NFL reporter that Barr was reportedly retiring, but I don't think Barr had made an official announcement. But anyway, he did make it official this week. And Barr, as we all remember, number 8th overall pick. He was in 2014. He was the Vikings, first pick. Mike Zimmer's first. Not Zimmer's draft pick, but I think Zimmer was pretty influential in the Vikings picking Barr. But Barr being picked where he was and having the career that he did, he's always going to get compared to the guy who got picked a little bit later, and in the guy who's going to be in the Hall of Fame, Aaron Donald, who was picked 13th overall in that same draft. And maybe he'd even be compared to a guy that was picked a few picks after that, Zach Martin, who might also end up being enshrined in Canton one day, who was picked 16th overall by the Cowboys. And, people will always say, particularly with Aaron Donald, wonder if the Vikings' fortunes during all those guys' careers, if Vikings' fortunes would have been a little bit different. Maybe they would have made a Super Bowl. Maybe they would have won a Super Bowl if Donald in particular, I keep on wanting to call him Darnold, but it's Donald. If Donald had been the Vikings draft pick instead of Barr, and who knows, right, Dave? There's so much that goes into getting to the Super Bowl for all players, and sometimes a lot of it's not under the control of the player, but. Thinking about Barr,
we would have missed this gem.
Yeah, we would have, but maybe Donald would have got him more than once like that. But Dave just loves putting up that picture every chance he gets. He's sad Barr has retired because it might be there'll be less need for that, or maybe not. But with Barr during the press conference though. What I found was interesting about it and a bit striking was that he had plenty of former teammates who showed up there with him. Andrew Sandeo, the former safety, was there. You had Eric Kendricks, his college teammate, buddy, and one of his linebacking running mate during his time in Minnesota was there. Old Audie, you had an Audie Cole sighting. The preseason wonder, Audie Cole was there. Scott Studwell, who would have scouted Barr at the time and had a role in selecting him in that draft, showed up. Chad Greenway was even there earlier, I understand, and to give his regards. So seeing that when guys hold press conferences, Dave, not all the time, a lot of the time, I think, do former teammates and even front office staff show up at that press conference. And I thought that said a lot. It said a lot about the kind of person that Anthony Barr is, the kind of teammate he was, and the kind of player he was. It seems that his peers and even people who worked for the Vikings in the personnel department had a lot of respect for Anthony Barr as a player and a person. And not all NFL players get that kind of respect, no matter how good they are. So, there's the comparisons about, what if we had picked Aaron Donald instead of Barr? But you can't deny, I think, that Barr still had a very good NFL career. Not as many splashy stats as a guy like Donald did, but he was a starter, a longtime starter for the defense, consistently Pro Bowl player. Wasn't asked to rush the passer all the time by Zimmer. He was a full, he was a complete linebacker, could cover, could defend the run, could rush the passer if he had to. I just think that, I have a lot of respect for, and he still considers himself a Minnesota Viking. He said he still cheers for the team now, watches the game. So I have a lot of respect for Anthony Barr, and I think he deserves our respect. And I wanted to mention that, even if maybe he didn't have the most splashiest stats as some other guys do. And I don't think he's going to be going to the Hall of Fame, but he's had a very good career, and he was, and again, I thought, just wanted to sing a few of Barr's praises because we won't be mentioning him too much anymore now that his NFL career is over.
Yeah, and the equipment room, whoever hand painted that helmet did a sweet job.
Yes, they did.
And that would be cool to get as a retirement gift, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now on to the wonderful sod of Soldier Field.
Yes. So Soldier Field often has issues with its turf and its field conditions. For whatever reason over the years, there's been too many instances of the playing conditions there being complete horse shit. And we might be facing that again this week, because we learned that the Bears are resodding the field this week, just 5 or 6 days before their season opener. Because they had like 5 straight concerts held, before the season opener. And Kevin O'Connell got asked about it, and he said, as being the good leader that he is, that he's not worried about it. It's going to be the same for both teams. And I do think that the Vikings equipment team they're going to have a plan, and they should be able to tell the players what cleats they need to wear. Hopefully the players will listen to them this time, because they didn't in Green Bay a couple of years ago. But, it just got me thinking about why this is happening. Could this not have been avoided? And perhaps it couldn't, because I was thinking, Dave, the Soldier Field is one of the few fields in the NFL, I think, that is not privately owned. It is publicly owned. It's owned by the Chicago Park District, I believe. So,
you are incorrect.
Am I?
There's only one privately owned field in the NFL. And that is Foxborough, owned by the Crafts. That's it. Everybody else has some sort of public management tie-in, something.
Well, thanks for that. But I did, because it's publicly owned, the Bears won't have full control over the scheduling of that thing. But this is bad scheduling, Dave. I think that you've got to be, again, I know it's a public facility, so you're looking for revenue, and you get revenue by having events at this at a facility. If the events aren't happening, you aren't going to generate any revenue. And if a public facility isn't going to just depend on the 8 or 9 NFL games that are there, if they can handle it. But 5 straight concerts a week before a premier Monday night matchup for the NFL. I feel like could this not have been avoided? Because it's likely going to lead to, there's no way that sod is going to be fully together in 5 or 6 days. There's going to be loose parts. There's going to be turf flying all over the place. There's going to be players slipping even with the cleats, the long cleats.
Soaking it. and it's
Yeah.
probably going to be wet. Yep.
So, I think that it's not fair to the players, and it's not fair to the fans that this keeps on happening at Soldier Field. I think you don't hear about it. I don't hear about it at all at other NFL fields. Now, a lot of them are not using real natural turf. In a lot of cases, they're using kind of field turf, and maybe that helps. But I just don't know why this keeps on happening at Chicago. And again, I think it's a real bummer when you got your first Monday night football of the NFL season, and you're going to be probably potentially talking as much about the poor field conditions as you are about JJ McCarthy and Justin Jefferson and the Bears players and all of that. So I just think it's terrible. And why can't you avoid this somehow?
Well, hopefully with their new stadium, if it gets built, it'll be an indoor stadium, much like ours, and they won't have the issue. It's easier to deal with the turf on that, whether they lay plywood down or roll up the turf, and they have it. But it's all stupid. The city runs it so they can have their deal and get their cut, right? This is especially Chicago. And they try to earn money from it. The teams pay rent, and this goes across the board except for the Patriots. They pay rent, even though the team is the big draw of the season because they max out seats. Concerts generally do not, unless it's something huge. And so it is a shame that they knew the schedule. I mean, we've known it since spring. Now, maybe they had the concerts scheduled way before that, but they know from history when stuff is about to happen. It's going to be either week 1 or week 2, generally, and they know when that is, but it's foolish. And it is sad that we're going to go into Monday Night Football and we're going to be worried about the grass.
Yeah. Yep.
So
that should be the least of their worries. But it just seems to keep happening regularly at Soldier Field and not at other fields.
It's how well they're managed, and that.
Yeah. Like, remember the time they didn't have the lines down on the field properly? That was a few years ago. Just, like, come on.
Mm-hmm. Or the flood when they had all that massive rain and the field wouldn't drain properly, and it just was a nasty mess. It is what it is. T-Bass says up until 1970 they played at Wrigley Field, which was worse. Yeah, I don't doubt that. Mm-mm. And yes, that's my throwback slide for ESPN for the modern, and then of course Cosell and Dandy Don and crew.
Yeah, the glory days.
Mm-hmm.
Doug L was asking in the comments if I ever answer questions in the chat. I do have a hard time keeping up with the chat, Doug. Dave's usually on that a lot more when he's not working the show solo, and sometimes I'll notice them when I'm not yammering on here on air. I see a few and I talk about them, or I'm able to look at them a little bit more when Dave is given his pearls of wisdom. But I'm not as good at responding to the questions in the comment chat as I could be, especially when I am saying my stuff here on the show. So sorry about that. I haven't seemed to have improved at that in the 6 years I've been doing the show, but I do recognize I don't do a great job of it.
So now we move on to the next topic where you worry some more. This one will be T-Bass's favorite.
Well, I wanted to, as we get into the start of the season again, Dave, last year, the Vikings, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah was able to, for the first time as a GM, he had, ample amount of salary cap space to sign some free agents, and he went out and signed quite a few of them. And it was the best free agent class, I think, ever since modern day free agency. And pretty much every signing he made, whether it was Darnold, Grenard, Van Ginkel, Cashman, Stephon Gilmore very late, Aaron Jones, even Shaq Griffin, Dave. All of those moves are either complete home runs or at least really solid signings. There wasn't a bust among them. And when you consider the contributions the Vikings got on the field from their 2024 draft class and the previous two, which outside of Jordan Addison and a little bit of Jalen Naylor, they got pretty much none from the draft class. If the Vikings don't get the output they got from last year's free agent class, they don't sniff the playoffs. They don't get anywhere near a 14-3 record. They might have been more of a 6-10, 6-11 team, I think.
You forgot Will the Thrill Riker.
True. And that is true.
Until he got hurt.
He's just a he's just a field goal kicker. He's just a kicker. But the free agent class last year was outstanding. Key reason why, the main reason why we got to where the Vikings finished 14-3. Well, this offseason, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah went on another big free agent spending spree and devoted even more dollars to players like Javon Hargrave, Jonathan Allen, Isaiah Rodgers being another one, and re-signing Aaron Jones, Ryan Kelly, Will Fries again. Devoted big dollars to a lot of these guys, again with the ample cap space that the Vikings had. A lot of Vikings fans, you and I included, Dave, we're really enthused with a lot of these signings, particularly the offensive line signings and Kelly and Fries, the Allen and Hargrave signings. We really think that they addressed some weaknesses on the Vikings roster and is going to help the team be a stronger roster and a stronger team than they were last year. Now we're going to see them into action, Dave. And, even though all those signings made sense, we're very enthused about them. We think they're addressing weaknesses. We've seen it many times in the past where sometimes those free agent signings don't always pan out, especially that first year. They don't play up to expectations, whether it's moving to a new city or it's a new defensive offensive system or the players behind them, they're playing with, they're just not gelling right that first year. But sometimes those free agent signings aren't the home runs and triples and doubles you expected, and not even singles. Well, last year, again, the Vikings every signing seemed to work out great. And that just doesn't often happen in the NFL. And so in this case, really looking at this year's free agents to see what kind of impact they have. And if a few of them, whether it's Jonathan Allen, who his signing was criticized in some circles because they said, he's getting old. He's caliber of play is slipping. If a few of those guys don't play up to the standard we expect, the Vikings aren't going to hit the level that we're hoping for and getting to the Super Bowl and winning that Lombardi trophy that you've got up there as a visual. So just something, like I said, a worry, a thought that came to my mind. Pessimistic, yes, but it still is something that I'll be watching, and I do kind of wonder about how those free agent signings from 2025, how that's all going to work for the Vikings. I'm optimistic. I feel strongly that, again, that those moves are the right ones, but again, it's got to work out on the field, not just on paper.
That is correct. I agree. If we want that Lombardi trophy, it's all got to work. Part of that's luck, but it's all got to work. Now, you had one more topic.
Yes, JJ McCarthy. Won't be the last time we talk about him, but we're here, right, Dave? We are a couple of days from the JJ McCarthy era starting, and it's been a while, right? Like, he's been basically in incubation since he got drafted in April of 2024 and then had the meniscus injury, so he couldn't play last year. And but there's a ton of expectation from myself, from you, from all Vikings fans, whether you're a McCarthy believer or you don't think that he's good. Every Vikings fan is they're locked into this game Monday night and ready to watch JJ McCarthy and see what he can do. And again, a lot of the Vikings fortunes this year, as it is with any NFL team, are going to be tied to how this guy plays. And we've heard a lot about how he's progressed through the training camp, but this is the beginning of the journey, Dave, for him. But it's going to be a long process. But finally, we're going to start to get some answers and see like what he does well, what he needs to improve on. We're going to learn about those leadership, those intangible qualities that his teammates have been raving about, his calmness in the huddle and all that stuff. His teammates have been raving about it all last offseason, this offseason, in training camp. We're going to see if that, which seems to translate in practice and in even preseason games, we're going to get to see if that translates into an actual real NFL game where opposing teams are trying to take your head off and knock you out of the game. But again, it's going to be a long process. We got last year, we kind of got some NFL fans have got spoiled a bit the past couple of years by seeing how well some rookie quarterbacks have played. Jaden Daniels, CJ Stroud. I feel that we're all through this long process, the whole year, as we watch JJ McCarthy grow, even at the end of the season, Dave, I don't think we're going to be completely 100% sure if he is the guy is going to be our franchise quarterback. I feel strongly that he is. I feel very optimistic about that. But I think even after this full year, even though we're going to want to jump to conclusions every week, and there's going to be lots of media jumping to conclusions every week, I don't think that we're going to be completely sure he's the guy, unless he has a year like CJ Stroud had in 2023 with the Texans as a rookie, or like Jaden Daniels has, where there's kind of a no doubt that unless this guy has a major injury, he's not going to pan out. But if it doesn't go well, there's going to be some ups, there's going to be some downs. But if it doesn't go well, I think, you want to look back at the guy you showed a couple of slides ago, like Bo Nix from Denver. Really struggled early in the season. The Broncos really protected him, didn't put much on his plate. But you saw as the year went on, he got more comfortable. He got more confident. He started playing better. He started playing a lot better. And some of that has to do with the way Sean Payton, I know we all hate the guy, but the way Sean Payton handled things last year with Bo Nix. But, that's something to keep in mind if McCarthy, God forbid, struggles somewhat Monday night in Chicago or in a few other games. Don't jump to conclusions. Like it's a long process here. And again, there's going to be some ups. There's going to be some downs. There were some downs with Sam Darnold last year, and he was a 7-year veteran. But despite all of that, Dave, I am so ready for this. I'm glad we're at the point where we can talk. We're done speculating about how JJ McCarthy might play, and we're into the spot where we can actually assess JJ McCarthy's play in a real NFL game. And that starts Monday night. And again, I am so ready for it. So ready to get this thing started and to see where JJ McCarthy can take us and whether he is the guy, the true successor to Sir Francis Tarkenton.
Yes. From your lips to Odin's ears, let it be so. What's our next theme?
It's theme 3. We're going to the game preview. And we've got a free agent signing of our own, don't we, Dave?
Yes, we do. We're going to be talking about the Vikings and the Bears. But first, we're bringing in the man. Hey there, Drewster. How you doing?
Why do I look like Johnny Winter? Hey guys. I have a lot of light on my face, but maybe I'll enlighten everybody. We got this. What about this week? Here we go. Am I on camera?
Yeah, you're on camera. The little helmets.
Yes, I have the whole league, so every week I'm going to show these to you. Cool. That's my intro. How you guys doing, Darren, Dave? We got football Monday night.
Yes, we
can't wait, baby. Can't wait.
These off seasons are terrible. It's hard to get through them all. But we're here. I got my Adam Thielen Funko in the mail.
Did you? I got one sitting back here on the shelf.
We collect Funkos here at the Bunting House. Office, Parks and Rec, everything. Vikings. We try to cover it all. But I am fired up. Hockey ends in the middle of June, and from the middle of June till now, we have nothing. So I am extremely excited to talk about this game with you guys, and thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Hey, we were happy you accepted. I thought it was going to be great.
Hello, everybody out there. Thanks, Dave. And Dave, let me say, your knowledge of public to private ownership of the fields, that is inside the numbers all the way, baby. That's
I've done way too much research on it over the years.
That is very impressive. Very impressive.
Don't credit him too much, Drew. He probably went on fucking Grok or something and to get that.
But he had it. That was great.
That's true.
Also, we'll start out with saying I always check the weather. You guys know me when I do research games. 68 degrees, 8-mile-an-hour wind, which is good for Soldier Field. Do you know what the average wind speed at Soldier Field for a Monday night game is throughout the years?
What, about 40?
14 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's ITN. So it's going to be a clear night. I didn't know about all the sod problems. Doesn't the NFL have any say in that, Darren? I mean,
ask Dave. He knew about the private-public breakdown. He probably knows all about this too.
5 days ago, doesn't the NFL intervene and say, "What the hell? Concerts don't outrank us. NFL outranks everybody, baby. I mean, no concerts."
Well, hopefully there is a letter from New York to the
every year
the Parks and Rec board, but don't bet on it. I've known Chicago fans that have bitched and complained for years.
I hate Chicago fans, and Sean Payton's a dick. So let's get into this game.
Inside the numbers with Drew Bunting.
What do you want to talk about first? Do you want to talk about the Vikings being 5-0 at Soldier Field? 5-game win streak? How about that?
I would love that.
Oh, sure.
How about that? The Vikings are on a 5-game win streak. They've had 3 5-game win streaks at Soldier Field. One in the mid-70s, one at the end 90s into 2000. They had a 5-game win streak, and then now they're on a 5-game win streak, which means KOC's never lost there, which is a good sign for the Vikings. I mean, that was a house of horrors for a while. After Denny Green, post Denny Green, we were like 4-14 there. It was terrible, but they have turned it around, and this game always is a turnover game. The last 5 years that we've won 5 straight, the Vikings have either tied or won the turnover battle. So last time they lost, Darren, in Soldier Field, 2019, Bears won the turnover battle 2-0. So the turnovers usually decide this game. That's my intro sheet.
Cool. Now we got
people
changes.
Yeah, both teams have redone the interior of their offensive line. I am anxious to see what's going to happen with all this. I know the Dahlman, Jonah Jackson, and who's the other guy? Tooney? They got Tooney in there?
Yeah, Joe Tooney.
Definite upgrade from last year, whoever they had in there last year. Definite upgrade from that. But both have changed the interior of their offensive line. The difference is the outside, the tackles. Bears got problems there, David, Darren. I've been researching it all week, and they have some serious problems there. I listened to Courtney, our friend Courtney, yesterday, and she was talking about Braxton Jones. They don't even know if he's a left tackle yet. I think that's going to be an area the Vikings can exploit. And Darnell Wright, the guy on the other side, the right tackle, he was the 10th player taken overall 3 years ago. So their tackles have been real sketchy. He hasn't lived up. Darnell Wright hasn't lived up. They're waiting on him to become what he's supposed to become. So, and what? Grenard had 2 sacks last year there, and Van Ginkel had 1. So I'm looking for that.
Pick 6. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, the Bears have weapons, but will they be able to use them? That is the question, because the Vikings are going to be throwing some different looks. You know, you throw in a Flores defense with an offense that is so complex, it's going to be, there's a lot of shifting and motion and things involved in Ben Johnson offense. There is. And I think essentially what they're going to do is maybe chop down that playbook about a third to what he had in Detroit. Matter of fact, he went back. Ben Johnson last week went back and watched tape on the Lions and had a pad of paper and started writing down the plays they can't run in this with this new system in Chicago. He did. Can't run
How
this.
How many pads
can't run
did
this.
he go through?
Can't run this. I don't have Gibbs for this. I can't run this. I don't have the offensive line, which is different than they had in Detroit, what he's got now. He made a list of everything they can't run. So instead of throwing this giant playbook at Caleb Williams, I think Ben Johnson's going to limit that thing down to about a third of what it is and do what he does best or what he likes, which is probably smart at that point.
I got you.
I don't know if that's really going to be a difference, but I think that that's what they're going to do rather than throw the whole. There's a lot of you got to give it to Jared Goff. There's a lot to know with this offensive scheme, and he mastered it. Jared Goff mastered Ben Johnson's offense. Caleb Johnson has not mastered it. He was getting screamed at in May. Courtney told me he was getting screamed at last week about the motion, the pre-snap stuff. He's not grasping it all, which makes me very happy. And they're worried about, the teams. It's very advantageous, I think, to both sides that they meet week one, because the Bears aren't going to have the full Ben Johnson offense, maybe not for the whole season. Certainly not in week one. They're not going to be able to implement everything that the Lions were. The Lions were tearing us apart with their misdirection, their running back stuff, their flares, their screens, their dig routes to St. Brown, going deep to Jamison Williams. Ben Johnson had it worked out there because he had the personnel to do it. I don't think it's going to take a while to learn it in Chicago. So week one for the Vikings, good time to hit them. And the Bears are thinking JJ McCarthy's never taken a snap, Darren. We want to hit them week. They're probably thinking we got him week one too, because McCarthy's going to be a lot different week 10. Like you said earlier, you talked about, he's got to get. My uncle used to say, you never learn how to be a captain of a ship on smooth water.
Yeah.
Right? You have to have some waves in there to teach you how to really be a good captain. And I think there's going to be some bumps, but I think the Bears are looking at, we'd rather play him now than, I don't know when we play him in our second meeting, but they'd rather play McCarthy week one. And I was watching some Bears stuff, and they're saying, McCarthy's going to face this giant crowd. McCarthy faced that every other week at Michigan and then some. Come on, 110,000 people at Michigan, and then those big road rivalry games with Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan State. That's not gonna. No. McCarthy, guys, don't buy into any of that Chicago talk. McCarthy will be ready to play. I do hope KOC gives him some leeway on some short passes to get going. Not the 7-step drop stuff. I'd go 3-step, 5-step. Hawkinson's my player of the game. We get it out there right now. I expect him to have 8 to 10 catches. Maybe not the big production of yards he had last year. He had 114 yards last year. I don't expect that with yardage, but even if he has 80 yards and he's moving the chains, McCarthy loves the tight end. He loved it with the Wolverines. He loves it now. I expect, and you put that on top of the TJ Edwards might not play their best cover guy for tight ends. That is something we should probably get into the injuries, because that's a big influence on how this game's going right now. And, if you guys want to talk about the injuries, we could sure do that. But linebacker TJ Edwards, I don't think he's going to play. If he had to play today, he wouldn't have been able to go, or Jalen Johnson. So I don't know who moves into that spot for him, Sewell or Hippolyte. I don't know what they're going to have, but he's not TJ Edwards. TJ Edwards is the best tackler on that team, and he is the best cover guy on that team, on linebacker-wise. If they don't have them, the Bears are in for a big problem. I don't know when you want to go over the injuries or anything.
We can hit it now. We can cover it. It's I don't have a slide for it this time, but I will next time. But right now for the Bears, they have TJ Edwards, like you said. They're good linebacker. Did not practice. We have Roschon Johnson, a running back, another area of concern for the Bears.
He's not playing.
Okay, he's not playing. They're down to one running back. That's it, period.
They have one running back, and they have Darren Campbell. He's the second running back. They don't. And Lord knows we don't want Darren in there. That guy's like Eric Dickerson.
I'm only in there for my blocking.
And so you don't get fined. I'm only here.
They have issues at the corner room with Josh Blackwell being out, not practicing. You have other ones that they've talked about that my guys, Pay and crew over Chicago, frustrated Chicago sports fans have talked about. They're worried about that. You have, like you've mentioned, Jalen Johnson, their best corner.
Who the hell is going to cover JJ if he doesn't play?
Exactly.
Well, we don't know if they'll match on guys, but Jalen Johnson would probably match as much as possible. Justin Jefferson, if he's not there, Tyreek Stevenson maybe is the guy who does that. He's their kind of most experienced guy opposite him.
Now, first off, Dennis Allen said that he intends to play his defense, which is man coverage. Okay. Jalen Johnson, who's one of the best corners in the league when he's healthy, plays one side. He's never been asked to follow with a number one wide receiver. So if he follows, that's going to be new to him as well. I can't see them if Dennis Allen goes man coverage. I think it's going to be a field day. Because if you got man coverage, even if you're doubling Justin Jefferson.
Sure.
With all our weapons, somebody's going to be open, and JJ McCarthy has the talent to hit him.
And you have to factor in the Bears pass rush, guys, isn't that elite. It's about I have it graded at like a C-, their pass rush. And with all the injuries, first off, Dennis Allen is a step up from the defensive coordinator they've had there. I mean,
and Eberflus last year when he regained control of the defense.
They had Alan Williams one year, Eric Washington, Desai. They haven't had a good guy there, Darren, since Fangio was around in 2015 or something. Their defensive coordinators have sucked. So Dennis Allen is probably top 6 or 7 DCs in the league, I think. He's not as aggressive as Brian Flores, probably not as creative as Brian Flores, but he is it's the best defensive coordinator they've had there. But for this game, I know he wants to pressure JJ McCarthy. I know he wants to throw not only the kitchen sink at him, but the fridge, the beer cooler, everything at him. But with Edwards' injury and Jalen Johnson, the injuries on the defensive side of the ball, I don't see him wanting to take too many risks on blitzing with the back end beat up so bad. So he might be leery about wanting to blitz people, and it's probably more of phantom blitzes and gap fake blitzes. I don't know. When you're hurting in the secondary, that tends to make you not want to blitz as much because you get burned on it. And I don't know what your guys' take is on that, but Dennis Allen is definitely a step up, but his hands are tied with these injuries.
I've always thought Allen's a really good coordinator, and he was basically the coordinator when he was head coach in New Orleans, and they had some pretty strong, solid defenses during his time there. So I agree, Drew, that he's a step up for the Bears, and over the long haul, if he should make that unit better than it has been. But you're right, pass rush, they don't scare you. They don't really have that guy. And again, if Jalen Johnson is not able to play or is limited when he does play, that's a big loss for them. Mind you, we've got kind of a big loss ourselves because Jordan Addison ain't playing. And the Vikings Jalen Naylor cannot replicate what I think Jordan Addison does on most days. And Adam Thielen is not the guy who's going to take the top off a defense like he could do in 2017 and 2018 and 2019 when he was in his prime. Now he's going to be more of a guy short to intermediate, I think, that JJ McCarthy can lean on, like TJ Hawkinson, for maybe some easy throws and pickups. So there's some stuff there. I also think that the Braxton Jones thing that you mentioned, Drew, is key. Like you said, I've been reading about the Bears all camp has been like they didn't know who their left tackle was, and they weren't very happy with Jones as the option right now. Van Ginkel, Turner, Grenard against him, that is a very tasty matchup for us.
Tasty tidbit. You know what? That Braxton Jones, he played 12 games last year, Darren. He gave up 5 sacks and he had 8 penalties. That's something you don't write home to your mom about and like brag about, I don't think. So
no, and getting a holding penalty is almost the same as a sack, really. You don't lose the down, but you lose the 10 yards.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I think we talked a little bit about the defensive line. Montez Sweat, really good player, great player. I don't think he's an elite player, but he's a really good player on the edge, and you have to account for him. They got Odingbo from the Colts on the other side. He hasn't produced like they thought he was going to produce, so they're waiting for him to produce like they are for Darnell Wright at the right tackle spot, guys that come over here who haven't really done it yet. The place on the line the Bears did improve was their interior defensive line with Grady Jarrett. They were getting cornholed last year in the middle of their defensive line. So Jarrett will at least help. I know he's a little bit on the older side, but he's a great player. He is a really good player.
Drew, I got a question.
Yeah.
Cornholed, is that a Michigan thing?
It is now. In the 80s, that's not what it meant. And I can't tell you what it's about in the 80s. Being cornholed. Yeah, you don't want to get cornholed on defense. This doesn't feel good.
All right. Gotcha.
My terms are sometimes weird, but you know what
I love it.
You know what I'm saying?
You threw me up a softball. I had to take it.
Good hit. Yeah, you look at any kind of area you want to look at, whether it's injuries or defensive line or Vikings, as many times, Darren and I were breaking down games back in 2015 with the Cardinals and Vikings and Teddy Bridgewater, and a lot of games we broke down over the years, all up to last year. The Vikings only lose this game if they implode on themselves, guys. I did all my paperwork. I did all the columns and all the number things. I don't see the Bears winning this game if they play straight up football with the Vikings. I don't see it. I got a couple tasty tidbits for opening day. Justin Jefferson, 4 opening days. He averages 116 yards every week 1 of the NFL. Boom! Tasty tidbit. Vikings. This isn't a tasty tidbit. Every time Darnold had a sack, 45 drives, he had a sack. They only got 2 touchdowns on those drives. That is not a tasty tidbit. Darnold turned the ball over a bunch of times last year. That's something we got to look for with JJ. Protect the football. He's going to make some mistakes. He's going to have some turnovers, but unlike a lot of quarterbacks, he'll learn from it and he'll come back out there with a vengeance. The Vikings had the 4th most drives of any team in the league last year, so those numbers are a little skewed when you look at, the amount of 20 times they had. I didn't realize that Darnold had that many turnovers in the team. Mm-hmm. 12 picks and 8 fumbles the Vikings had. Sweat and Odinegbo, I'm not worried about them off the edge. I know JJ will take off any sign of trouble, and he will get some first downs with his feet, but I think you need to get him on track in that first quarter with passes in the flat to JJ or some dig routes or stick routes with Hawkinson. Like I said, you're going to use Hawkinson a lot on Monday night, but JJ getting him settled, getting him in sync is imperative, which you guys talked about earlier about the whole thing.
I think part of that been brought up before is the Vikings run game, which we expect to be improved because what they did on the interior offensive line and adding Jordan Mason to give you a bit more toughness and a bruiser for those tough short yardage stuffs. But I do. Kevin O'Connell says he wants to run more. He said it last year too. He did a little bit more, but a coach like Kevin O'Connell, Drew and Dave, I just think that, if your first run, we've seen it with him a lot. Your first run gets you negative yards or you get 1 or 2 yards. After that, it's pass. Some teams stick with the run even if their first run isn't successful, and that makes them a little bit less predictable. I want to see if Kevin O'Connell is like committed to the run, like they say. And so if your run on first down doesn't work out, do you still try to run on second down to keep the Bears defense off balance. And so they just can't expect that, okay, the first run didn't go well and we know they're going to pass now.
I love the combination of the running backs the Vikings have. And I think along with whoever plays the best turnover-free football or lesser on the turnovers, Darren, that is factored into the Soldier Field games ever since Bobby Douglas was there in 72. But what also factors into the turnovers, the other thing you can look at is the running game. The team that wins the running game usually wins this game. The Vikings had 124 on the ground last year. I looked at the prop bet for Swift, DeAndre Swift, 52 yards. If the Vikings hold Swift to 52 yards or less, they win the game. I'll tell you that right now because they have no other running. They have nothing. And they don't have Jahmyr Gibbs. Don't be fooled by any Chicago people. Don't be fooled by him telling you they got Swift. He's not Gibbs. He's not even close. So it's like going to a David Lee Roth concert now and expecting to see Van Halen. It ain't.
Nope.
It is not good. So I think the running game does break into it.
I'm also curious to see, and this is going to be a full season type thing, not just in this game, Drew and Dave, but Ben Johnson, first-time head coach. We know he was an awesome offensive coordinator, but is he a leader of men? How is he going to handle being the CEO of a football team and not just being concerned about the offense on game day, but having to worry about timeouts and challenges and other stuff going on and trying to keep connected with the defense? Dennis Allen being a head coach, I think he's probably going to let Allen handle the defense and not have too much involved with that. But we have seen where head coaches are just focused on their lane, that leads to some problems throughout the year. So I'm really interested to see what kind of a manager that Ben Johnson is going to be as a head coach, and if that comes back to bite the Bears, because we know KOC's now into, he's done this already 3 seasons now. Sure. He's done this rodeo, and on the road too.
It's a great point. As far as I know, what's leading to the off season, the mini camps and everything leading up to now, Courtney Cronin said he has just been busting people's balls out in that field. He has just been relentless. I mean, chastising people and yelling at them. And so we'll see. And Darren brings up a great point. Head coach is a lot different than a coordinator. You got a lot more to deal with. And, Vikings can't hand them any favors on Monday night. I don't want to be talking about Tuesday morning. Well, we had the game if it wasn't for this or that. They got to go in there and take care of business. So, but Darren had talked about this earlier in the show, and I was listening, that people have the Vikings blowing this team out. I'm not going there. I think the Vikings are a better team. I think they're 6 to 8 points better. But like Darren said, I got to see it. I haven't seen anything yet. And I'm certainly not going to call for a blowout with a team I haven't seen yet. I've been watching this team 50-plus years. Plus another thing, it's KOC, Darren. How many blowouts has KOC had in his career? 2?
Well, if you just counted the first 3 quarters, he's had about 15 of them.
I mean, come on.
He goes to sleep for the third quarter. Yes.
Start stomping on people. Come on now.
Well, now you don't want to be too mean. Sean McVay doesn't seem to have any problem with kicking KOC's ass, but yeah, I know that's a sore point for you, Drew, and it's a bit of a sore point for me. Like you say, you got step on the neck of of your prey and put them away.
I hope they blow them out. Don't get me wrong, I want them to, but it's KOC. He likes the 1-score games for some reason. So
it's just so hard to predict that, though, because again, like you say, we don't know what these teams are at this point. We don't know what they're going to become. We don't know what they do well, what they don't do well. The first game of the season is always full of surprises, like maybe the Cowboys giving the Eagles an actual game the other night after trading Parsons, or I think the Chargers beating the Chiefs last night, which I don't think is really a big upset, but some people will say that.
What about that Dallas-Philly game? Dallas was one great defensive player away from beating them.
Yes, and Jerry said it after the game too. Too funny.
I wonder who could have made a difference.
But all right, tomorrow night we have some injuries of our own. Christian Darrisaw, I think you both will agree with me, is expected to play full out. I have no worries.
And Great Sweat news. Is the left defensive end, so O'Neill's going to deal with Montez Sweat.
Yeah,
which is
okay. I think Darrisaw is going to have a good day, and of course that leads to JJ McCarthy hopefully having a good day, plenty of time. Harrison Smith, question mark. He was limited in practice with some unknown family-related illness, whatever that is. Do you expect him out there?
I got a feeling, but he was a full participant at practice yesterday, so that's a good sign.
I think he's playing.
I think he is too. I think you're going to have to chain him down to not play.
Good point.
This is the man that, hey, you want to come out for a break? 1,200 snaps. No.
Hall of Fame, baby. Hall of Fame.
Xavier Scott and Elijah Williams were on the injury reports, not practicing. Xavier Scott for an ankle and Elijah Williams for a hamstring. Both are rookie backups. Not as worried.
Hey, I got with Vikings Report, I like the trivia at the end. I was wondering if I could hit you guys with a little trivia question.
Sure.
You can either give me an answer separately, so you get two chances, or you can combine on one answer. I don't care how you do it.
I doubt I'll have the answers, so we'll go with me and Dave combining on this one.
Lots of confidence. That's what I like to hear right off the bat. Lots of confidence. Who was the last 100-yard rusher for the Vikings at Soldier Field?
Aaron Jones?
Yeah! Yes! Yes! Dave Stefano got it. The master of who owns the field turf. Got it. Last year, 106 yards and a touchdown. Aaron Jones. I thought I was going to throw you off.
My work here is done.
Dave, I've asked that trivia question to about 7 people, including Courtney Cronin. She couldn't get it.
Really?
You got it. You got it. You got it. And we're going to win on that. We got it.
Yeah. Jones, remember, Jones had that fumble at the goal line on the first drive last year, too.
Darren,
you're just full of wonderful tidbits there, Darren.
Darren?
Not going to do it this time.
Blow out. Let's blow them out.
All right. Now.
Thank you for letting me do that, by the way.
We are at the end of the show. The game is Monday Night Football. Tomorrow, Sunday.
Yep.
What are y'all's plans? How do you watch a full day full of games with no Vikings?
In a relaxed state of mind. I'll actually be playing some tennis, so I won't get to see all of the games live, particularly the 11 a.m. games here. But I'm always interested to see how the Lions and that team from Wisconsin does, and hopefully that they don't do very well.
Hopefully the meteor hits.
When I was a kid, I got to meet Bjorn Borg after a tennis match, and he didn't know any English really at the time, and I'm going on and on telling him about how, and all he's doing is nodding. What a fantastic tennis player! That guy was good. Couch, DoorDash, hanging out with Toonces, listening to her sarcastic comments about players who do dumb things. It's classic. My wife could have she could have a podcast. It leaves me in stitches every week. She has this dry sense of humor, and she just rips people, and it's great to watch football with her. But that'll be about it. I don't get too flamboyant watching football. I just pick a game, start watching, maybe switch it up a little bit.
Okay. Well, I'll have Sunday ticket on in the 4 screens, and I'll be watching because I got to do another podcast tomorrow night, the Fans First Sports Football Show.
Is there a day when you don't do a podcast? You do at least 1 or 2 a day.
Generally, I have 1 day a week. time off.
Wow.
And then Monday, we come on live at the 2-minute warning. And
there you go.
We'll bring you all from the 2-minute warning all the way into the post game, hopefully celebrating. If not, we'll see.
Kick ass, guys. I love this show. I love watching. I love you guys. You get more info from 2 old bloggers than I do all week talking to anybody. You guys, Alec Lewis. I like Alec Lewis, very informative guy. And the guy on Lockdown, Patrick Seatman, he does a really good job. But you guys are number one on my list. You guys make me smarter every week. I appreciate you having me on the show. It's an honor to be here. And Inside the Numbers will increase, Darren, as the weeks go on. We don't have much to go on right now. We don't have a lot to go on right now.
Well, you had a lot going on this week, so
I try to be thorough.
Inside the Numbers is even going to get more intense as week 2 onward.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to cornholing, I hold no punches.
And don't forget, Monday night before the game at 6:05, we have Tyler Fornes and the Real 4-0 Show, and we'll bring you into that game. I will already be probably 3 or 4 drinks in by then, and it should be fun.
Shocker. Me too, Dave.
With that, what do we say?
What do you guys say?
We say, SKOL Vikings, baby, and thanks for watching. Thanks for getting up to watch us.
I'm not going to say that. I'm going to come up with my own thing like, suck it, Bears.
SKOL Vikings. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell, and rate us on your favorite podcast aggregator. Darren and Dave, thank you for watching this episode of 2 Old Bloggers. We look forward to seeing you on every show on the new Vikings First and SKOL. You can find our podcasts as part of the Fans First Sports Network. Sports takes for the fan, from the fan. SKOL, everybody!